How did you get to New York City?
I got to New York after I graduated Miami University of Ohio, where I did my undergrad. I was like, I kind of want to write fiction, and I didn't want to take the GRE, and Columbia was one of the only schools that accepted an application without that. And so I was like, I'm going to apply to, I wanted to do stand-up too. So I was like, I'm going to apply to Columbia. If I get in, I'm going to go to New York, and I'm going to do stand-up, and I'm going to try to write fiction. If I don't get in, I guess I'll have to get a job. And I really had no idea what I was going to do. But so I applied and I got in. And so I came to New York in August 2019. And I did my MFA at Columbia and started doing stand-up.
How did you know that was what the path you wanted to pursue? I'd love to get the background story as to how you even got to that point.
I started writing fiction when I was like a senior in high school, and it was like a secret project. I didn't tell anyone about it. It felt very embarrassing. It felt like an embarrassing thing to do. And when I went to my freshman year at college, I was like, I want to be a novelist, which that seems like a ridiculous thing. I didn't know any novelists. I didn't know anyone. My dad was a bookie. My mom was a waitress. And I didn't know anyone with a real job. And so a novelist seems, it was ridiculous. But I decided that was what I was going to do. I didn't tell anyone. And I just I would get up at 5 a.m. I was a mess in college too. I was
really
drinking like a maniac. And I was really I was a disaster. So depressed. And
really?
I was a mess. And alienating all my friends, especially my first 2 years. And then I got serious boxing, and that kind of brought me out of the abyss. But so I was just writing all throughout college, and then I took my first creative writing workshop as a senior, and I submitted a story that the teacher really liked, and she said, maybe you should try to apply for an MFA program. And so I applied to Columbia, and it worked out. And then I for the stand-up, there was like a stand-up club at college that I went to see a show, and then I performed a couple times in college, and I thought I was really good. I thought I was going to come to the city and like have a special in like 2 months after two sets in college.
What could go wrong?
Which you learn quickly in New York that stand-up's different, starting in New York.
For sure.
But so I don't know. I knew I wanted to write fiction from early on, and then the stand-up thing, it felt like a good thing to do with it, a good collaborative, artistic project.
Then the instinct to become a novelist, it sounds like that came out of nowhere. You don't have that in your family. Like, how did you know? Did you love reading novels and you wanted to emulate that? How did you have that kind of knowledge about yourself that that's what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I guess I loved reading my whole life. I was always a big reader. When I was a kid, I would just like read like sports biographies out the wazoo.
Yeah, same.
And it just the way I grew up between Steubenville, Ohio, and Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
Wow.
Because my mom is Brazilian.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then my dad had a job where he was like working in the island of Antigua for a lot of my early life, because he had an offshore sports book out there. And so I was whisked around everywhere, and I was a lonely kid. I have a twin sister, and she was my friend throughout all that, but I was lonely. And so reading was a great solace, right? And so I was just always reading stuff, and it just felt like I remember like when I was a kid, I got the Bo Jackson biography, his autobiography, Bo Knows Bo. And I was like 8, and they're talking about like, he's talking about having sex and stuff. And I was just like, oh my God, like no one even knows I'm looking at this. And it was like this secret knowledge, right? And so books always had that whiff of like, a secret world that you can go into and, explore. And, when I started writing, I was like, this seems like now you could just make up your own stories. That seems like a cool thing to do. And
outside of the sports biographies, were there novels that you read that also you remember kind of taking you into another world that captured your imagination and the possibility of what you might be able to make someday?
When the novels I really liked when I was I really started reading serious novels when I was like a senior in high school. Yeah. Because my school, we read stuff like The Great Gatsby. It was a pretty weak curriculum, honestly, at school. And so I was like, I'm not ready for college. like I gotta look up like what's the 100 best books or something. So I looked up the 100 best books, and then from the list I started reading Lolita and then Crime and Punishment, and I was just like, this is like Crime and Punishment was like mad, like that felt crazy. Like you're in this guy's head and he's murdering, and then he's all guilty, and I would have dreams about it. I read it over like 2 months, and I was so deeply in it. And then you read Lolita, and it's just this guy's using words you don't even know what these words mean, you know? And it's just like, wow, you can do really weird stuff with this language and with the story. And that felt invigorating to me. Just the possibilities of what you could do.
The ultimate canvas kind of thing.
Yeah, you can do anything. You know, the words can be anything. You can make words up. You can use, obscure stuff. And so that was very exciting to me.
Were you a natural storyteller socially as well? I mean, did that translate to your social life, or was it more of like you used the word secret earlier, like an internal?
No, but I was always like, I would have like, I would hold court at my lunch table at school, and I would bring people over, and we would ask them questions and stuff. And then my biggest public success as a young man was in the spelling bee. When I was in 8th grade, I won like 3 B's in a row. I didn't study none of the words. I was just like an intuitive speller, and then I would get up on stage and I would, I'd ask the definition for goofy things. I was just being funny. And then I was getting laughs, and that felt thrill. I was getting laughs, and, no one else was getting laughs on the spelling bee, right? Just spelling the words. And so I almost made it to the national spelling bee.
Really?
I was 1 spot away, without studying a word. My dad was like, I'll give you $100 if you can make it to the national bee. And I was, so I didn't get the $100, but it was and then I got a thesaurus. That's what I want, a big thesaurus.
When you were beginning to actually start to write yourself, I don't know if you remember if there were certain worlds you like to write about or subjects you like to write about, but do you remember there being things you wanted to convey on paper when you first started exploring creative writing?
Yeah, I think my early stories were all, I was trying to make sense of, they were very personal. They were like autobiographical, and then they would get really goofy. Like I remember this story. The first story I wrote, I went to visit Boston University, and it was like a diverse accepted students weekend or something. And I met this girl there, and we had like, an amazing weekend together. And then I wrote a story about it, and I had a girlfriend at the time, and I wrote the story, and I sent it to my other girlfriend, not my actual girlfriend, not the other girl, and she like cried all night about it, and I was like, I just made it up. I just made up the whole story, and then that was just like, I don't know, that was something of a thrill to me, and probably a bad way where I'm, I have this
power.
Yeah, I do. It's some sort of power. I can affect people like that. And honestly, that has gotten me in trouble even lately. Like, I write this Substack all the time, right? I it's like 1 stack a week where I'm talking about all sorts of stuff. And then I wrote a stack about, I was talking about happiness 2 weeks ago, and I mentioned a client of mine who's really bumming me out. I'm a boxing coach, right? This guy's bumming me out, talking about, he's just depressed, and I probably shouldn't talk about him on another public platform, but anyway, I wrote about him, and maybe in an ungracious way, and he sent me a very nasty text about it, cussing me out and saying that, he was really, really mad about what I wrote. And that was after our last session together. And so I, I've just been thinking about what is, and I heard a lot of people, some people were like, write whatever you want, that's the truth. But I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings writing. I'm really not. That's what I've done. But sometimes you're writing about real people, and they get abstracted for you, and they start becoming like symbols of other things. And I'm just trying to tell a folksy parable. And unfortunately, I'm ruining this guy's day. And that's really not what I want to do.
Yeah. I think you were mentioning that I'm always fascinated about this with kids who gravitate towards books rather than television. I don't know if you were also a big TV watcher, but it's in my experience in life, it's very rare for people who are in middle school and high school, especially if you're a social person, which it seems like you are, to gravitate towards the act of sitting down in silence and reading a book. I don't know if you've thought a lot about this or if that's even an accurate representation of your upbringing, but what about the book was more attractive or appealing to you than television? Because that seems like the default, even today, television and probably iPads, the default form of entertainment for young people who are kind of developing their imagination.
I really just thought books were more entertaining. That's it. And I mean, it's not like there were a lot of books in my house or anything like that. My parents are cursory readers. They read this and that, but they're not serious. And I mean, neither of them went to college or anything like that. But it was always this thing where it's like, oh, you know, if you want to, you can't have it, you know, you can't have no toys or anything, but if you want a book, we'll get you a book. So it became almost like a thing where it's like, I'll go to the bookstore because I want a thing, right? And my parents will only get me a book, so I'll go and get a book. And then, you know, you get into it, then you go to the library, and the library got some good stuff too. And it just felt more fun. It felt fun. It felt like something I could have a different kind of access to and have a personal relationship with. And that's still how I feel about books. You
were mentioning in college that you were, God knows I had phases like this as well, just like very drunk a lot and depressed. How do you make sense of that at this point? I've talked to a lot of artists in for this show who often relate their most depressed periods of their life to not being in alignment with the thing they feel like they are kind of here to do. Like they're not honoring, if they believe that they're an actor or a musician or something, that they're not really, the depression is almost like a signal to them that like, dude, you need to get your shit together and like, get in align with like what you're kind of supposed to be doing. I don't know if that resonates at all, but I'd be curious to know if that is how you make sense of that period of your life in any way.
I don't think I was ever so far out of alignment with what I was trying to, because I was writing some bad novels at that time. Okay. I mean, horrific novels, like, you know, stylistically, ethically heinous material. But I think my problem was that I was just, one, I am prone to dramatics, and I just had a lot of stuff from my upbringing that I hadn't dealt with. I just had so many emotions, and it all kind of hit me at once, and I didn't know how to work my way through it. But eventually, through reading and writing, I feel like writing my first book, I kind of settled a lot of what I had to settle with, you know, especially, you know, my early upbringing. And that felt, after I was done with that book, I felt cleared of a lot of it's part of it is growing up too, but when you're growing up and you're actively engaging with your ideas, and something like writing a book, and I was doing stand-up too, and I just felt like I was learning more and more about myself and how to control my emotions and the inheritance of the past. And it all cleared it up for me. And now I feel like, you know, I don't get like once a year I'll get depressed for a week maybe, and I don't drink as much as I used to. I mean, I still like to throw them back, but I mean, I really was I really used to get after it.
Yeah. Tell me about the first book. How did it come about, and tell me about what it's about.
The first book is called Tropicalia. It's named after a Brazilian artistic movement during the Brazilian dictatorship, and the movement is about like how Brazil deals with the outside looking in. These ideas of Brazil is like a mythical paradise and stuff like that. And it's about a family that lives in Rio who's, it's the mom is Brazilian, the dad's American, and he kind of ditched them, and then the mom ditches them, and they're like alone with their grandparents. And then the mom comes back for New Year's, and all hell breaks loose. And I mean, it's about a family just reckoning with the past is basically what it is. I mean, it's a fast, I think it's well plotted. And I started writing it as a senior in undergrad. And I had like 90 pages of, it had a different title, but it was like basically aligned. And then that was the only thing I worked on in grad school. I didn't write any other short stories or anything like that. I just worked on the novel. And then that was my thesis at Columbia. And then it took me a while. I took like a year to get an agent, and then I worked on it. I just kept working on it for a while. I mean, you got to learn how to write a book. It's hard to learn how to write a book, and you make a lot of mistakes doing it. And you always think you're done. You always think you're done, and it's the best thing ever.
It's perfect now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had like 10 It's Perfect Nows. And then I sold it in March 2022, and it came out in July 2023 from Atria, Simon & Schuster division. But so that was fun.
I would love to hear about what you learned, what surprised you, the mistakes that were made. I mean, there are a lot of people, I guess maybe directing this towards someone who might read this and would love to be able to do that someday.
Yeah.
What are the secrets you learned, the knowledge that you learned in that process that matter?
There's so much more work to do than you think there is. It's just never done. And you just go on and my thing, I was like holding to a lot of things that I thought were right and I thought were so smart, and other people were telling me weren't working. And I didn't have any humility toward it at all. And I didn't understand the project. And now I think if someone says something to me about the work, I have a much clearer evaluation of how to make it work. And I know if advice I'm getting is good and if it's useful. You just have to have a humble attitude toward the work and make it simple for yourself. I mean, the novel is complicated, but I was always trying to do more and more complicated things, and I didn't have the skill to do it then. The second novel that I wrote is more complicated, and that one too I had to simplify. So I'm building. You build up your toolkit of the stuff you can do, and just being humble and diligent with it is the most important thing.
When you say simplify, do you mean like the habits around making it? What do you mean by that?
No, I mean the actual work. I mean the habits around making it is you just gotta. For me now, when I work on a long project, a novel, like the novel I just wrote, I did every draft in like a 20-day burst where I was just not doing anything else. And I'm just writing all day. And then I'm literally like stupid. By the end of the day, and then I'll go see my girlfriend and she'd be like, I'm stupid. like I'm stupid now. I just don't have the bandwidth to even say anything right to you. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm completely drained and you just got to accept that right now. There's nothing I can do. I'm just stupid. And then that lasts for about 20 days, and then you're good, and it goes off, and then you hit it again, and but that's the best way to do it, is to be in it, and just working, and
Tell me about an average. Let's say it's a 20-day period. What's a typical one of those days look like?
Well, one of those days is just I go, if I got to work at the gym, I go, I do my work at the gym, probably like the most like 6 to 11 or something like that. And then I'm home, and then I'm working. I'm just writing till 7 p.m. And then that's, if I don't have to work, great. Then it's like 7 to 5, just writing. I have pretty good stamina right now where I can write all day, and I can get like 5,000-6,000 words done in a day.
That's you alone with a computer in silence?
Yeah.
Is that kind of what, and like a lot of caffeine, or like how do you help yourself?
Yeah, lots of caffeine, the coffee, trips to the coffee pot all day long, and then sometimes walking around, but just talk. I mean, I read the stuff out loud. I'll be talking to myself. But that, I like that. That's the funnest part for me, especially when something's already, and I can only do that when I have real material and I'm just revising it. And then that's when the fun part comes. Coming up, doing the first couple drafts, it's kind of fun, but you can't really get into too much of a rhythm with it. But when I have the structure out and I know what I have to do, then rewriting it is so much fun.
There's like a natural momentum at that point, I would imagine.
Definitely. Because I'm like a paint by numbers guy almost, where it's like, I knew my first book was 12 chapters. Once I figured that out and figured out who everybody, the perspective of every chapter, then that was super easy. Then this book, it's like 54 sections that are all like 1,500 words. And so that's so easy. When I have the architecture, it's so easy and so fun. But figuring out the architecture is hard.
When you are beginning a major project like a book that you want to work on, how much of its framework, its architecture, do you already kind of have in place, or do you kind of learn as the words pour out of you what this thing is going to become?
I have some intuitions, and then I let the intuitions kind of guide me, and then I'm figuring it out. I write the way I mean, I know some writers who they just like their first draft is they do it very slow and meticulous and everything's perfect and the book just comes out and it's nice. But I need to write a lot of bad stuff. And then I'm just writing crap, and I'm even as I'm writing, I'm like, this sucks, like this is horrible, I'm never going to write anything good. And then you start figuring it out. Oh, here's a character. Here's this is a real scene. And then it just starts stacking on top of each other. You know.
Do you feel like, having done this twice at this point, that you have a natural ability? Obviously, this is a shitload of work, and it's taken a lot of discipline to do this, but I don't know that most people could sit down if they were forced to for 20 days and pour out like a comprehensible work of fiction.
Yeah.
How do you think about the interplay between natural gifts and hard work?
It's really the way I think about everything is everything good that I do is not because of me. Everything bad that I do is my fault. And so I just don't know how to, that's just how I do it, and it feels good, and I'm following the intuitions, and I'm grateful for whatever it is that, you know, leads me that way. And I don't think of it as, I mean, you know, I love like whining about how hard I work and how grueling everything is, but just because I'm whiny and dramatic, but it's not true. It really doesn't feel like that hard of work. It's tiring, but it feels natural, and I'm just doing what feels natural. So you know, I don't think the kudos are warranted.
Do you think it's kind of like you are almost channeling something, like when you are in that kind of, I don't know if you would say it's a flow state, but like when the words are coming out, the characters are being developed, you're almost like a vehicle?
Well, the way I like, this was the principal metaphor for the whole first book was psychography. You know psychography? No. My grandma is a spiritist medium.
Really?
Right? My Brazilian grandma, she is. And and psychography is this thing that these spiritists do. Like there's this dude in Brazil, his name is Chico Xavier, and he wrote like 396 books, and he claims that he is not the author of any of them. They're all just authors speaking through him. Yeah. And like 396 books, that is to claim zero of your own volition. So I like that metaphor for writing a book, that it's psychography. It feels like someone else is writing it, and I'm just, you know, I'm guiding it into its shape, and and then I'm making money off of
it. But basically, like, you have to show up in order for that.
Yeah, you got to show up. You do. Happen. You have to be receptive to it. That's the whole thing about being a medium, right? Is you have to be receptive to the messages of the spirits.
Is it while you are working this diligently? I mean, is it like you've got cortisol just like raging through your body? Is it a pleasant, almost like euphoric experience of flow? How would you describe most of the psychological experience of actually creation?
It feels really good, and then at a certain point you get tired, and then you're like, for like the last hour, it's like pushing, it's like, ugh, like it feels like a bit of a grind. But for most of it, I think it's fun. And I mean, that's the best part of it when you're in the, I mean, that like the 20-day burst, that's the best part. That's the funnest part.
Can you kind of tell before that 20-day burst happens, like, it's almost like a male version of giving birth. Like there's something about to come here. Like I'm about to have like this insane experience.
Yeah. And like, so I sold the book in, was it March again or May or something like that? And I knew that I was going to have to rewrite the whole thing, because that's just what I know it's not done. And so I had the manuscript of the first one, and I printed it out, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay, I know that for the next 21 days, I just got to rewrite the whole thing from scratch. And so then I know you do feel it. I mean, that one is like a planned thing. Like I know I'm going in and doing it. Yeah. But you feel the currents. It's very intuitive. The whole thing. It's intuitive.
The combination of a fiction writer and a boxing coach and a former boxer is a rare one. I would
Yeah.
imagine. I'd love to hear about that, like how you think about how one has influenced the other, and anything you'd like to share about your boxing career as well.
Well, I think the boxing and the stand-up are much more related, because those are like, stand-up and boxing is nice because when you're in a fight and when you're on stage, it's like this unmediated experience. You're just a pure experience now, and it's up to you whether it's going to be very successful or very humiliating. Like, and you can't leave, right? You're in the ring. It's 3 rounds. You better show up, or you're going to be humiliated. You're going to take a big fat L. Yeah. And so that is what's so fun about it. And that's what's so addicting about it. I think everyone who's fought or done stand-up would say that there is an addiction aspect to it, because you just want this experience. The experience is just so... And then sometimes I'll go a little bit where I'm not doing so much stand-up. And then, like this weekend, like I went back to Steubenville and did those 2 shows. And I'm like, God, this is why I love stand-up. So when the laughs are coming, it's like, God, I this is the best thing ever. And then the book is like training for a fight, where it's just you, and it's just long hours, and it's solitude, and it's you in your head, and you're battling your own mind with it. But the thing is, with the fight, you got the clear date, and you know that it's time to perform, and I'm going to get my hand raised or not. The book is so much murkier. Yeah. You really have to, you can't write fiction without loving the work, because there's really, the reward is way out in front of you and probably non-existent. I had the experience where my first book was a complete flop, and that was pretty demoralizing. Especially because I thought I was going to be, a National Book Award, and it was just basically silence was the reception to the book. And so then you got to deal with that too. Like, I spent 3-4 years on this thing. I did the best work I can do, and now it's out. And I mean, some people read it, but then it takes so long for them to read it too, because it's a whole book. It's if you don't love the work that you produced, it's really not fun.
Yeah, man. I feel like that's a story that is overwhelmingly the common experience of probably any writer who works their ass off for a couple years and publishes a book. I mean, the vast majority of people have, I would imagine, a very limited audience after publication. Yeah. Tell me about that, about like your kind of psychological state before publishing the book, and what your expectations were. And maybe, I don't know if your agent and the publishing company had sort of hyped you up as being like, this thing is going to be big, or what your expectations really were.
No, I mean, that was, I guess, when the book was being sent to the publishers, when my agent was sending it out, that there was an aspect of hype there where we're sending it to all the big houses, all the big names. And then, I mean, I got like 30 rejections, and then one publisher wanted it. But I thought that it was going to be, my expectations were really way too high and, nonsensical almost. But the people that read the book loved the book. And so that was good. And I mean, the fact that anyone was reading the book at all, it's funny because I'm in college and I think being a novelist is so ridiculous. And oh my God, if I could publish a novel, I'll be on top of the world. And then you adjust to your new realities.
Completely. The story of life.
And you finally get and it felt like a dream. Someone picked up my novel. It was like I'm like, I'll never complain about anything ever again. And I'm like, the New York Times didn't review my book. And I'm like mad about that. It's But a lot of good stuff came out of it. And I did like I was on the CBS New York Book Club. I did like a live TV interview. That was cool. My book was in airports.
Wow.
It's the worst selling book of all time whose author was on TV and who the book was in airports. I'm betting anything that that's true. It was for Hispanic Heritage Month. I got 1 month on there for my Latino heritage.
The diversity.
Yeah, for diversity. Diversity has been a big part of bolstering me up.
The way you found an agent, I mean, most people also never get a real agent, much less getting a book actually published by a real publishing house. How did that happen? Like, what did you learn about what helps and what works?
What I learned about what helps is you go to grad school and then a teacher helps you out.
Okay.
That's how I got my agent. I queried for a while to absolute silence. And then my teacher, who's very helpful to me, Rivka Galchen, who writes for the New Yorker, and she's got a couple novels. She's a brilliant writer. She connected me with, she like dropped a line on a guy who was the assistant for her agent. And the guy was like, oh, Rivka, you know, submit let me see like the first 20 pages or whatever, and then he liked it, and we've been working together since. Chris Clemens, he's great.
And the actual amount of money, like you got compensated to some degree, it sounds like.
I got a good deal.
Is that enough to pay for a fraction of your year's expenses? Like, were you satisfied with what you were getting offered?
I was definitely satisfied with that first one. I mean, that felt like more than I ever thought I would get, you know, for writing a book. And I mean, but then the thing about publishing too is that they throw a bunch of money at a debut novel, and then they have no investment really in whether it succeeds or fails, because they're just buying a bunch of lottery tickets. And so what happens is you try to sell your second book, and they're like, oh, well, we didn't make the money back, so we don't want you again. And so you're out floating around. And so I got lucky to find a different publisher where my friend is the editor, and I got significantly less money for that. And so if your lottery ticket doesn't come in on the debut novel, it becomes very hard to do anything after that. And it's not a great model for, you know, sustaining a writer across their career. And that used to be kind of the model in publishing houses, was that, okay, here's a writer writing literary fiction, and I believe in that this is a serious writer, and that, you know, I want to support him or her or them. And then, you know, you give them a little money, but you keep publishing the books, right? There's like, I don't know if you know Bolaño. Do you know Roberto Bolaño?
I don't think so.
There's his famous book is 2666 is what it's called. And there's a scene in the back half of the book where there's this writer, and he's just sending his novels to the publisher, and this publisher liked the first one, and he don't even read the second and third one. He's just like, well, we're publishing it anyway because I believe in this guy's career. And by the fifth one, maybe he'll write something actually good. And it's just about supporting rather than, you know, dumping it's not a person, it's a lottery ticket for, and it pays off for some of these people, and then they have a smash, and then that's its own problem too. You know, if your first novel's a big smash, I've seen it happen to people where it's like, okay, now it's 8-9 years and you haven't written anything else because you're just crushed by the commercial success of this thing and these expectations. And I just don't think it's a great model, but it certainly felt good at the time.
The economics of this are, you correct me where I'm wrong here, but like you basically get like an upfront bonus for selling the rights to your book. And then you get like a certain amount of money per book sold. How does that work?
So you get an advance on royalties is what it is. And so each book you sell, a percentage of that goes back to pay for your advance, right? And once you earn back the advance, then you start getting the royalties, which is like, I think it's like 20% of a hardcover book and 15% of a paperback, and then more than that for the ebooks.
Okay, but the royalty has to be paid back first for however much
or
you
don't get anything.
Is that fairly like this? That's the standard model in the publishing world for how this typically works.
For the big four or five publishers, that's what it is. I'm indie publishers. I mean, some people have different schemes with it. Like, I mean, I'm friends with plenty of writers who publish on really small presses where then you get no advance and you just get a percentage of the royalties, like 50% or something like that. It's usually more for something like that.
Given the difference between book one and book two in terms of the royalty payment that you received, where is your head? I know you know, as you mentioned, you do weekly writing on Substack. Like, where is your head and just general outlook on like the future of your writing career? Do you still have a lot of resilience for knowing like this is just going to be part of my life because I fucking love doing it? How are you thinking about it?
I mean, I'm an insatiable optimist. Like, so I think that everything is always going to work out beautifully for me. And so I really can't think other than that. And sometimes I'll be telling my friends that, and they'll be like, you're crazy. But I just think it's all going to work out beautifully. So I can't think any different.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what but you do need a certain delusion sustaining you. That's the only reason you get into any kind of artistic field, is because you have this delusion where you could be really good, and you need that delusion fostering you, or else you're going to quit. That's going to be the big thing. And now, I got some things that confirm the aspects of my delusion, that I could publish a novel, that I could publish a second one. And so, it's going to keep me going for a little bit. If this book is a big flop too, I will be in a bad way for the third book, just in terms of finding it a home. So I'm hoping this next one, Humpty Dumpty, will be a success. That's what it's called, Humpty Dumpty, after the mythic figure.
How does Substack figure in your thinking about your writing career?
Oh, well, Substack has actually been amazing because I always felt like I was writing prolifically, but my first book was like my first publication. I mean, I published some things in the school's story, and when I published it, I was like, I didn't have any social media. I was the first publication of a person who didn't exist, and I shouldn't have been expecting that to be a success in 2023. That's not a 21st century method.
Yeah.
But I started the Substack when I went to Edinburgh with Max Fine and
with
Eric
the boys.
Walsh. Yeah, and we had a good trip there. And I started writing like a daily vlog of the daily Substack of just what we would do. I was just like, okay, I'm 1,000 words a day, and no matter what, I'm going to publish. I'm going to put it out. So I'm like hammered writing these Substacks, and then a few. Some people were like other comics in New York were reading it and stuff, and I was getting good feedback. And so I kept it up. And then I traveled around a little bit more with my girlfriend, Gabby. And then I was just, blogging everything. I did like 21 days straight, 1,000 words a day, like no matter what, putting it out. And then I really got the itch for it. And then I started publishing once a week, I'm just going to find something to write about once a week, like whether it be an essay or what's going on in my life, what I'm reading. And so I've been doing that since, August of last year, and I got like 103 posts now. And so I'm just publishing all the time. I'm writing all the time, and it feels really good. And I feel like I'm so much better of a writer because of it. And it's different when you're putting something out too. When you're writing for yourself, it doesn't matter what it is, but when you have to publish something every week, it really keeps you at a standard that you have to be proud of. And so I've really been pushing myself with it, and I think it's made me a lot better writer.
Go ahead.
Now, and just the fact that people who never read my book, like friends of mine and shit, who they're reading the stacks, and I read them out loud too, so you can listen to them too. So that makes it more accessible to someone like my dad, who he ain't gonna read everything, but he'll listen to it and be like, I listen to your stack, and it's reaching so many more people than my book did, and that's what you want as a writer, is just to be read, right? And so that's been wonderful. Substack's been wonderful.
It's made it more accessible.
It has. It's made it more accessible, and it's made my writing better. So it's just been nothing but a win.
I'd love to hear about what your experience has been in the writing community in New York. Like, what keeps you here versus going to another city? If you've thought about that, of what your experience has been connecting with other writers, if you think New York is still sort of the literary hub of the country.
Yeah, what keeps me in New York really is stand-up and the boxing, and I just love New York. Honestly, writing, I have a few friends who are writing. My best friend who's a writer is Sean Thor Conroe, who wrote this book, Fuckboy, and 2022. And we do a podcast together, One Story Pod, talking about books and stuff. So that's cool. Like when writers come to town, we can have them on the pod just because it's in New York. But as a writing, and there's like readings and stuff, I'm not very much in the writing scene. Most of the people I hang out with are comics, honestly, because they're more fun than writers sometimes. But not to say, but I have met some more writers that are, you just meet more writers here, and then you're like, I think a lot of writers have this idea that either you're really in the scene and everyone's like, you're rubbing shoulders and you're buddy, or you have this attitude like, oh, all the other writers suck. They're just lame and I don't want to be friends with them. Then you meet another writer with that same attitude and you're like, okay, there's more that don't suck and that are cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not really in the literary scene in New York.
I don't know if you've noticed that there are like locations, or if somebody were interested in meeting new writers, like up and coming writers, especially, to just learn from, to befriend? Like, are there salons, are there events that you recommend or you found to be helpful in that regard?
Yeah, there's always readings going on.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, I go to these readings and it really makes me uncomfortable. And I just don't like it. And it makes me, I think I'm a bit fractious just generally. And I just like, I see other people and I think my natural inclination is a little bit of misanthropy, where I get other people are alive and I don't like it. Which is an easily broken down attitude, but I can really fester in it if I'm at a literary reading where I'm just, if I'm alone, I'm like, I hate everyone in here.
Because it's so stuffy.
I don't know
serious.
what it is. It just makes me, it just really rankles me in a way that nothing else rankles me. I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but it really does. And so sometimes I bring a friend and then we can, that assuages my ranklement a little bit, but there's always readings and stuff going on. And if you really want to find a literary community in New York, you can do that.
They're out there.
Yeah. I got this Substack magazine now that's that I started with Sean. It's like an avant-garde literature magazine. It's called Blast 2. So, I mean, maybe we'll have like a reading or a party or something, for that.
I'd love to talk about the role of comedy and stand-up in your life. And you said earlier that you see a lot of parallels between boxing and stand-up, which makes complete sense to me. How did you get into that world in the first place? And especially in New York, I'd love to hear about how you entered the scene.
I had done a couple sets in college, and then I moved here in 2019, and I just went to an open mic, and I just started going to an open mic, and I met, like, the first mic I met Fernando Ruiz, who's a good friend of mine, who we run a show together at my boxing gym.
Oh, cool.
Knuckle Sandwich
a comedy show.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got one next Saturday. If you want to come through,
I'd love to.
I'll get you a ticket.
Okay.
But so that's cool, and it's a cool venue, and that's cool to run a show. But he's one of the first people I met. And the thing about, I didn't realize that he was my only friend in comedy for a while. Like, I did it for 2019 until February, and then the pandemic happened, and I didn't do comedy until March 2021, and that's when I feel like I really got in the scene. You don't realize, I again, it's this misanthropy thing where I was like, I'm a lone wolf. I don't need no friends around here. Yeah. And then really Eric brought me out of that. Yeah. Eric is who introduced me to like all the friends I have now, basically. And because he is someone who's just so like glued up, he's a connective, he's so convivial, I mean, he really thrives, he prides himself on his own conviviality, and but he was a great connector, and that improved my life so much, is having the comedy friends. And comedy is really a good social sphere. I mean, you go, like, I went back to Steubenville with 4 comics, and we just had a blast of a time. It's so much fun. You guys are all doing your thing, but I mean, I love stand-up. Stand-up is great.
What is it about the stand-up personality, like the archetype of a stand-up comic in New York, that you find so enjoyable?
And what's funny is, like, they're all different. Like, all of them are so different, but there's I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just this attitude toward levity, and just I really am attracted to people who don't take things too serious, and they're just things are a joke, right? And everything's like, life is really, really funny. And anyone with that attitude, I feel a kinship with. And they're doing this. We're all doing this thing together, And it's a grind, and it can be very obnoxious. And I'm still trying to. My biggest problem with stand-up is trying to, like, I'm not doing what I want to do artistically. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm at my artistic capacity, and I get frustrated. I mean, I'm always getting frustrated where I build an act and I have these jokes, and I'm like, just the idea of it feels like a limited. I feel ambivalent toward the art form sometimes. And I mean, I did for like a year and a half where I was not doing any jokes, and I was just kind of being crazy, and that was fun. But then that scares people, and they don't want to book you. It's hard. You don't want to be like the unpredictable, maniac. And I was the unpredictable maniac for a while. I grew my beard out. I didn't shave or cut my hair for like a year and a half.
Wow.
So that was just another test. You test things, and that didn't really work. So I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do artistically with stand-up.
Are you thinking you might want to merge stand-up, like we were talking about Eric and how Eric clearly merges his intellect with his comedy? Like it seems like a natural segue for him. Your more creative writing components with your stand-up comedy, how are you thinking about it?
Well, that feels like, honestly, like the Substack form. When I put out these short pieces that are just autobiographical and they're to be funny, that feels like a merging of,
and it's a unique form,
writing.
Man. Like you have a unique voice.
Thank you. I see. So that feels like a merging of that, where it's like, oh, this is like just a funny little story, and it's like, this would not make it into the act or whatever, and this is not, this isn't a book, but this is like a funny thing for now, and people like reading that. So I don't know. In my mind, everything is going to merge together in some kind of way, and the whole thing is going to be the thing that I'm working on. Yeah, the stand up, the writing, and the Substack. Everything is the thing, and I mean, again, it's just trusting my intuition. And this delusional positivity and optimism.
Yeah, like it's becoming something, like it's leading.
Yeah, it feels like they're all merging, and they're all helping each other out, and so something very positive artistically will come out of that. It'll be an aesthetic success in some way, I feel like. I don't know yet, but just keep working on it. Yeah, I think something good will happen.
Does your creative writing typically include a lot of comedy in it at this point?
The first book wasn't that funny. There were certainly funny parts. Like if you read the first chapter is pretty funny. And then it gets a little dark. People read the book are like, oh my God, it's so dark and depressing. I didn't think that when I wrote it. I didn't think it was so dark and depressing, but that's a lot of feed. Some guy commented on the Goodreads, said I canceled my trip to Brazil after reading this book, which felt like he was being mean, but anyway, the book is not that dark and depressing, but it's not that funny either. The second book is really funny. Humpty Dumpty's really funny, I think. So I'm figuring out a way to be funnier in the writing, and that's the Substack has helped me with that too.
Yeah. I'd love to hear about how much of your actual, I know you work in the boxing gym. Are you able to basically free up the rest of your life for creative work? Are you still needing to take jobs you would rather not be working in order to pay your bills to basically facilitate your creative outlet?
Not as of now. Okay. As of now, like working at the gym is enough for me to do what I want to do. So that's really delightful. And I hope I can continue doing that. Yeah. And I'm going to try to figure out some way to continue to where I don't have to work that much, because I don't like working that much. The gym is fun because I have the clients, and when I'm not talking shit about them on Substack, it's all good. It's all gravy. So that's, I enjoy the work. I mean, sometimes you get up super early, and getting up at 5 to go to the gym is never that much fun. But I enjoy all the classes, and I enjoy teaching boxing a lot. And it keeps me in, a portion of the real world that I'm not in my, in comedy and writing fiction. That's very much not the real world.
True.
So it keeps me some way grounded to reality.
And interacting with normal-ish people.
Normal-ish people. It's normal-ish. Ish is the key there.
What do you like about boxing, or what do you love about boxing?
Oh, that boxing. There's something so simple about it, and then you teach people, and they're like, oh my God, there's only like 6 punches you can throw. There's uppercut, hooks, and the straight punches, and only so much you can move. It's so limited, but there's so much you can do within that limited space. That's awesome. And you're thinking when you're sparring or fighting, there's so much you have to think about. You're setting up these traps, and you're getting, there's physical consequences to what you do wrong too. And it's just this beautiful intellectual and physical arduousness that's very fun. I just think it's so much fun. It's like writing or stand-up where it's these problems, these high-stakes problems almost that you have to solve. And I just get a thrill out of that, the high-stakes problem solving.
The risk of potential injury in doing it. I would imagine I know your answer, which is like, that's the point. Like without that potential outcome, it isn't nearly as thrilling.
Yes. See, that's why and it's funny, whenever I'm feeling nervous for a big set or something, I always remind myself like, oh, I don't have to fight. Like this is way better than having to fight. The injury risk is a real thing. And this is what I tell people. They come in and they want to fight and they're like old or something and they want to compete. Like I'm training this dude, he's 76 and he wants to fight. Yeah. And he also got mad at me because he had another 76-year-old in the gym sparring him. And I made like a video of them sparring and I clipped it up and I put it on Instagram and it went off.
Whoa.
And I called him old in it. I said they were old, and he got so mad at me. He goes, he was like, I haven't put in all this work to be ridiculed for me. And I'm like, dude, I was like, the only reason anyone cares about you boxing is because you're old. Like, count your blessings. Like, if you were no one would care you're boxing. It's cool because you're old. Anyway, I gotta stop like doing things that upset people. I just gotta keep my head down. But I'm like, why do you want to get hit in the head? Like getting hit in the head is a real consequence.
Yeah.
Like I think I came out of boxing with just the right amount of brain damage. Like I do. It's like a goofy amount of CTE where I'm okay. But the thing is, you don't know what the line is. You don't know the line. I could get hit with a tough hook tomorrow and then it's a little too far.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be a little too far with brain damage.
How injured have you gotten? What's the worst that you've experienced?
I mean, sometimes I really didn't. I mean, there were a couple fights where after the fight, I didn't know where I was. So I think that's probably a concussion. I never got diagnosed with a concussion, but I think I probably had a few. But that's about it. I got hurt more playing soccer where I tore, both ACLs and both knees playing soccer 2 years apart, So, yeah. And I got lucky. I mean, I got out of it probably at the right time.
The people who come to you, because you do group and private lessons. Yeah. Who are the people in New York that typically are coming to seek you out to do boxing lessons?
There's all sorts of people. There's like, your classic finance bros. And then I got a guy who he makes cancer medicine. And then, tech, just all sorts of people from all walks of life are attracted to boxing. You see it at the gym, just, people always putting their head in the window, seeing what's going on. People are really interested in. There's something about it that people find very interesting, and then some people make the step to actually go in the gym, and they fall in love with the sport. But it's all sorts of people. That's what's so fun about being at the gym too, because it's just so many different walks of life, and the coaches are all characters too. Everyone at the gym's a character.
These people that you've met in this world, have they informed or been explicitly modeled in your fiction work?
Not in my fiction work, I don't think. I mean, because both the books I wrote are pretty specifically of a milieu, and Tropicalia is about Rio, and it takes a lot of my family's story, and the Humpty Dumpty is about Steubenville, and again takes a lot of my family's story. So I'm stealing from my family right now for the stories. Eventually, I'm sure I'll steal from my clients and the coaches at the gym. But I write about them on the stack, so it's getting into the stack, which I hope doesn't cause me more problems than it has. But I kind of like the problems, honestly. I'm sick with it. I kind of like that.
We wrote a little bit about this. I mean, we grew up not too far from each other.
Yes, you're from Erie, huh?
I'm from Erie.
Yeah.
Tell me about Steubenville. What do you remember? What was that place like for you?
Steubenville is a really interesting cross section of society, because there's just it feels like there's these mythic. There's these ghosts there of certain past, right? Because Steubenville used to be in the early 20th century, it was like the gambling hub of the United States. Before Las Vegas, people would go to Steubenville to gamble, because the mobsters would come out from New York, and for some reason they would stop in Steubenville. So there's just a strong Italian community there. And Dean Martin is from there, the old crooner, right? And
which you wrote about in your Substack.
Yes, I did. And
great.
Moses Fleetwood Walker was the first black baseball player in the major leagues.
Wow.
From Steubenville. Huh. Edwin Stanton, who Lincoln said his last words too. So there, and it was this old surveyor's spot where the surveyors would come there. So it was, the wilderness. It was the barrier from
frontier.
the wilderness. It was the frontier, right? And there's just so many interesting cross sections of life. Then the mills were there forever, and then the mills were gone, and so there's a little bit of that economic downfall too, which creates certain cultural currents. It's a very fascinating place. I really like Steubenville, and it was good growing up there. Especially in hindsight.
And Humpty Dumpty is in part about that place. Is that
Humpty Dumpty is about Steubenville? Okay, yeah, my novel, not the
exactly.
So Humpty Dumpty, Humpty Dumpty, I'm sure, the anthropomorphic egg who falls off the wall. Yeah. So, and it's funny. I do this rant about him. Humpty. The nursery rhyme is about masculine failure and irrevocable consequences. Right? And that's what my book is about. And it takes an event that in 2012, there was this sexual assault case in Steubenville where these football players drugged and assaulted a woman, young lady, and it made national news. And then because the town covered it up and the hacker group Anonymous got involved. So my book takes that as like, a nugget and turns it into a fictional narrative based on that. So Humpty Dumpty. And Humpty Dumpty, what Humpty Dumpty, the rhyme is really about, the way I've always, and this is my original interpretation, I think that it is like a joke about the regicide. Because, we're not sure where Humpty Dumpty comes from, but a lot of people think it's Richard III, who was the last English king to die in battle. And the reason it's an egg is because it was a riddle, right? To the answer, which is an egg, is the answer to the Humpty Dumpty nursery rhyme. And that's why we think of it as an egg. But the joke is the king is as fragile as an egg, which is a very subversive and dangerous joke. And that's why like the end of the answer to the joke is elided. And, what you never see, you go to these museums in fucking Europe and sorry, I don't know an F word. And I don't think I've ever seen a painting of regicide. So it still was a very dangerous thing. It was a very dangerous thing. And, joking that the king can be cracked so easily. So Humpty Dumpty there is a lot of mythic portent in that dumb little rhyme. And it's, and I fought with this for the title with my agent hated it at first. He wanted to call the book Winners and Losers, which I thought was so stupid. And he, if he hears this, he'll be texting me, can you leave me alone about that? But, and it's just, everyone knows it. And what it says too is that these really portentous mythic ideas can be transmitted so easily to where they stick to everybody's head. Everyone knows Humpty Dumpty, but they don't know, the secret. It's a Trojan horse for real mythic,
for
irreverent ideas. So I'm very fond of Humpty Dumpty.
And this is the power of words. And
this is the power of words.
That you
and it's funny. It's so silly too.
Yeah.
It's silly. It's really silly.
Yeah.
So it's silly. It's serious. It's mythic. It's subversive. I mean, Humpty Dumpty. It's perfect.
I'd love to close. And I like to close this with artists by asking about how you think about the word success. I mean, it's amazing to me that you already, it sounds like, are basically kind of own your time or most of your time to do your creative stuff. When you look at the next year or two of your life, how do you think about the word success as it applies to you, especially your professional work?
I just like to keep getting better at the stuff I'm doing. I really like writing books. I really like doing stand-up, and I want to get really, really good at both those things. So if I can, I mean, I like what I've done now, but I still see like there's a lot of growth to be had. And if I can just keep pushing myself and getting better at it, then to me that's success. And if I don't have to work, a bunch that I don't want, I mean, then it's perfect. Then everything is perfect.
Love it. Dude, great to meet you.
Yeah,
Thank
great
you so
to
much
meet
for doing
you.
this.
Yeah. Thank you. I had a great time.